Good evening, you're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the people of Oman and residents on its land, as well as the Islamic nation on the occasion of the blessed Eid al-Adha. His Majesty the Sultan issues royal directives to extend Eid al-Adha leave for public and private sectors until August the 6th. The Supreme Committee hailed the great commitment from citizens and residents and urges all members of the society to be very cautious during the blessed Eid al-Adha leave days and appeals them to reduce movements and avoid family gatherings as much as possible. And the Ministry of Health announces 9 deaths and 1,053 new cases of COVID-19. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. The Diwan of Royal Court issued a statement reading as follows. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq has addressed heartfelt greetings to the people of Oman and the residents on its land, as well as the Islamic nation on the blessed occasion of Eid al-Adha of the year 1441 AH. The statement said that His Majesty the Sultan also issued royal directives to extend Eid al-Adha leave for public and private sectors until Thursday 16th Dhul Hijjah, corresponding to August 6th, starting from Thursday 9th Dhul Hijjah, corresponding to July 30th. It added that the work will resume on Sunday, August the 9th. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq sent a cable of greetings to His Excellency President Martin Vizcarra of Peru on the occasion of his country's National Day. The Supreme Committee on COVID-19 held the meeting today, headed by His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, Minister of Interior and Chairman of the Committee, in the presence of His Excellencies and members of the Committee at the National Committee for Emergency Management to follow up the developments of this pandemic, preventive measures and ways to curb its spread. On the occasion of the coming of Eid al-Adha holidays, the Supreme Committee extended greetings and congratulations to His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq and to the Arab and Islamic nations, praying to Allah Almighty to return this occasion to His Majesty with good health and wellness and the Sultanate under his wise leadership. The committee followed up the progress of the process of complete lockdown between the various governorates of the Sultanate, preventing movement and closing all public places and commercial shops from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m., which took effect last Saturday. The committee held a great commitment from citizens and residents, which will help protect oneself, the family and society in general. The committee urges all members of the society to be very cautious during the blessed Eid al-Adha days and appeals to them to reduce movement as much as possible during daytime and to avoid family and social gatherings of any kind, as it has been scientifically proven that the gatherings cause disease outbreaks among large numbers of people. The committee reaffirms the continued strict dealing with violators of its various decisions. The Supreme Committee on COVID-19 visited the National Emergency Management Center. His Excellency Sayyid Hamoud bin Faisal Al Busaidi, the Supreme Committee Chairman of the accompanying members, listened to the brief of the role of the center and other concerned authorities and sectors in dealing with COVID-19. The center activated a number of sectors to deal with COVID-19 during the medical response and public health sector, shelter sector and media and public awareness sector, in addition to subcommittee to deal with emergency management in various governorates and to coordinate efforts in cooperation with concerned authorities. The National Emergency Management Center works on setting plans and mechanisms to provide necessary resources to curb the spread of the pandemic and ensure the sustainability of basic services. Units of Royal Army of Oman continue with carrying their duties at all joint control and checkpoints in cooperation with Royal Oman Police, Royal Navy of Oman and Royal Air Force of Oman, as well as engineering services at the Ministry of Defense continue with their efforts in providing various support to facilitate movement of food, essentials and logistics products to citizens in Musandam and other areas. Medical response and public health sector, as well as evacuation and shelter sector, carried out their duties to contribute to the joint national efforts made by Sultan Armed Forces and other government institutions. As part of the humanitarian mission provided by Sultan Armed Forces and other military units to citizens and residents, a helicopter from Royal Air Force of Oman conducted a medical evacuation for a non-Omani patient who was in critical condition. The patient was transported from Qasem Hospital in the governorate of Musandam to Hola Hospital for specialized and immediate treatment. The Ministry of Health announced 1,053 new confirmed cases of COVID-19, which brings the total number registered in the Sultanate to 77,058, including 393 deaths. The Ministry of Health stresses that 57,028 cases have been recovered. Still to come in our news bulletin. Decentral slaughterhouses in all wilayas and governorates are ready and will operate during Eid al-Adha under the strict preventive measures to curb the spread of COVID-19. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. The Ministry of Transport opened the 12-kilometer stretch of Al Suwaik Al Haqain dual carriageway project, which links Al Batna Expressway with Al Batna dual carriageway. The opening of the project includes the construction of dual road with 2 traffic lanes in each direction, with a width of 3.75 meters per lane and external shoulders with a width of 2 meters. It also includes the establishment of 3 roundabouts to serve surrounding residential and industrial areas and 18 culverts for rainwater and 2 bridges over wadis crossing. It also provided with all traffic safety means such as reflective signboards, flow reflectors and concrete barriers. The trade balance in the Sultanate recorded a surplus of more than 1.5 billion Omani riyals by the end of March 2020. The sea outlets recorded more than 50% of the total merchandise imports to the Sultanate. More details in the following report.
The Sultanate recorded a surplus in the trade balance exceeding 1.5 billion Omani riyals by the end of last March. The National Center for Statistics and Information indicated that the value of merchandise imports to the Sultanate recorded a decrease of more than 11% compared to March 2019. Sea outlets accounted for about 52% of the total imports, amounting to more than 1 billion Omani riyals, followed by imports through the land outlets at about 695 million Omani riyals, while imports through the air outlets amounted to approximately 271 million Omani riyals. The merchandise exports of the Sultanate exceeded 3.5 billion Omani riyals by the end of March 2020, recording a decrease of about 8% compared to March 2019. The value of the Sultanate's oil and gas exports amounted to more than 2.35 billion Omani riyals, accounting for about 66% of the total value of exports. Statistics showed that the value of non-oil commodity exports decreased by more than 27% to exceed 722 million Oman riyals by the end of last March. In addition, the value of re-exports from the Sultanate increased by 33% to register more than 463 million Oman riyals. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
Works of the second scientific seminar for Camel Sciences 2020 highlighted the importance of this wealth in sciences, economy and food security. The seminar aimed to attract a number of scientists and specialists to develop the camel sector and contribute in spreading the scientific research, in addition to establish pillars and basics in the field of educating and training the sector, besides introducing health aspects and taking care of them. The seminar also aimed to encourage cooperation and coordination between various bodies concerned and institutions, in addition to manufacturing medical drugs and food supplements and a number of dairy products and meat. It's worth mentioning that the Sultanate owns about 270,000 camels, and the census of camels specified for races reached more than 9,000. The seminar was presided over by His Excellency Dr. Saud bin Hamud Al-Habsi, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Wealth. Pursuant to the law for the regulation and privatization of the electricity and related water sector promulgated by Royal Decree No. 78 of 2004, the Authority for Electricity Regulations issued the Customers Welfare Regulation. More details in the following report.
Complementing its role in protecting customers' rights and enhancing the quality of the services provided by the electricity suppliers, the Authority for Electricity Regulation issued the Customers' Welfare Regulation. The regulation included several provisions that guarantee customers' rights, such as the right to file complaints against the electricity suppliers in an event of a dispute, outage, damage, or dissatisfaction with the service. The Customers' Welfare Regulation indicated the importance of taking due care when considering customers' complaints, obliging electricity suppliers to closely review complaints related to the validity of invoices. Regarding the procedures for disconnection of service, the regulation clarified the customers' categories for which the suppliers may postpone the disconnection of the service. The Customers' Welfare Regulation also allowed companies to change the due amounts into monthly installments, taking into account the customer's condition and his ability to pay, so as to avoid disconnection of electricity supply. In addition, the regulation stipulated the administrative penalties resulting from violations of electricity suppliers to these provisions. It is worth mentioning that the Authority for Electricity Regulation was established in accordance with the sector law as an independent organization responsible for the regulatory control of the electricity sector. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
As Al-Adha Eid draws nearer, Ministry of Regional Municipalities and Water Resources has taken extensive and strict measures to raise preparedness level of central slaughterhouses in all wilayas and governorates of Oman. This includes increasing the workforce and extending the working hours to avoid overcrowding in facilities and minimize the impact of COVID-19. Besides that, inspection teams from the ministry continue their work on regular basis to visit the inspect local markets, shops and restaurants to ensure the safety of food and products that reach local consumers. This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq greets the people of Oman and residents on its land, as well as the Islamic nation on the occasion of the blessed Eid al-Adha. His Majesty the Sultan issues royal directives to extend Eid al-Adha leave for public and private sectors until August the 6th. The Supreme Committee hailed the great commitment from citizens and residents and urges all members of the society to be very cautious during the blessed Eid al-Adha leave days and appeals them to reduce movements and avoid family gatherings as much as possible. And the Ministry of Health announces 9 deaths and 1,053 new cases of COVID-19. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the studios and the newsroom, it's good night.
تغفو أعين الناس وتستريح، إلا ثلة منهم ظلت ساهرة مستسهلين المصاعب، متحدين بذلك كل المتاعب. هنا من يحضر الدواء، وهنا من يخفف العناء، وهنا من يسعف الأرواح. بقلوب مبتسمة ونفس راضية، عزما على كبح جماح الوباء. فشكرا لكم، أنتم جنودنا في الخفاء. فشكرا لكم يا حراس العافية.
لبيك اللهم لبيك، لبيك اللهم لبيك، لبيك اللهم لبيك، لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك. إن الحمد والنعمة